Good morning, everybody. Welcome to GoJo Golic. Just me and Senior today. We'll tell you why coming up. But here's what we have on the menu for today's show. So, should we be a little worried about our basketball teams? The men and women's national teams showed some weakness over the weekend. We will talk about that. Plus, we got somewhat competitive football coming our way in 2 weeks. So we're going to go through our division preview starting today with the AFC South. And Calvin Johnson going to join us, Megatron, joining us live in the second part of the show. Stay tuned for all that and more coming your way.
To GoJo Golic. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jessie Cofield holding it down in Boston at the studios. And there is no GoJo. He, my son, well, at least we know where he is. Jessie, travel issues have hit the country, and Mike got caught up in it. As you mentioned, we got a ton to talk about with our men's and women's national basketball teams. Do we have to worry? One with a loss, the other barely escaping with a win. I don't think we have a lot to worry about. And Megatron, going to be great to talk to Calvin Johnson, man. What a stud, big-time receiver, Hall of Famer going into the Lions Ring of Honor. So it would be great to talk to him. And we do have to start our in-depth look at some of the divisions out there in the NFL as training camps start. And always fun to talk some training camp stories. I have a couple of good ones that we can get into, but we got to start with the bad travel. I mean, I just went through it after the American Century Championship in Tahoe. I had to miss a show. I got stuck in Vegas. Not a bad place to be stuck if you want to lose some money, which I did. Ended up actually getting a hotel room for about 3.5 hours before having to fly out on Tuesday morning and miss the show. Mike was on his way to Cincinnati for a charity golf tournament. Jordan Cornette, former basketball player at Notre Dame, for our former teammate at ESPN, as a foundation tournament for his brother who passed away some years ago. It's been a great tournament, and Mike was heading out to that and got caught. I don't know still, Jessie, are we still in the Microsoft CrowdStrike update thing? I
heard it could take a while for this all to get cleared up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this had something to do with that. I also just don't trust them to fix, the internet. There's a lot of people probably scratching their heads over this one. So it could be related, is what I'm saying. It also seems to me that golf is the common denominator in all of these travel situations in your family that we seem to be having some issues with.
It really does. Actually, my wife left yesterday for Phoenix from Indiana. She got nailed in Minneapolis. They had 2 flight attendants and they needed 4. So they left. Luckily, they left about an hour and a half late. They were cheering as the flight attendants were showing up, and getting there and helping out. But no cheering in Mike's case, as he was supposed to get into Cincinnati at 6:30 and around midnight. 6:30 yesterday, and around midnight, his flight got canceled for good. Too late for him to get a hotel, so he was sleeping on the Minneapolis floor, basically. I did that last year in Dallas, slept on the floor because there just wasn't enough time to get to a hotel. It kind of sucks, kind of a bummer, but I'm wondering, Jesse, bad travel experience. We've all had it. Anybody who's flown, you've had it. It's just a matter of how bad it's ever been.
So I'm going to be honest, and I'm so scared to say this because I fear that I'm cursing myself by saying it. But when you told me before the show you were going to ask me about a bad travel experience, I'm like, oh yeah, let me think of my bad travel experience. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, in recent years, I really haven't had like something really bad happen to me. What I will say is that last fall, my husband and I went to a wedding in Tuscany, which was very beautiful, but Tuscany is not easy to get to. And our flight out the next day, we had to drive and then take a train and then take an Uber to the airport. And we ended up like running for our flight. We did make it, but that was probably a very bad travel experience for me because we had to drive the windy roads in Tuscany and I was pregnant and I was really nauseous in the car. But made my flight, everything was fine. So, and we got there and they're like, we're boarding the plane, we make it, blah, blah, blah. And right when I'm about to check my ticket, they're like, oh, Mrs. Nowak, you've been upgraded. And so I got the upgrade too when I was walking onto the plane. So that was pretty sweet. And yeah, then I got to lay there for like 8 hours and watch movies.
That's your bad travel experience?
I know.
I mean, seriously, you better knock on all the wood around you that's as bad as it gets. Oh my gosh.
I know. I've cursed myself. Now that I've said this, something terrible is going to happen to me.
Oh man, I've had so many. Now, one of the differences that you were pregnant, which certainly adds to it, is a lot of mine are usually during the football season when I'm traveling alone, and Mike's traveling alone. So you can only feel bad for anybody for so much when they're alone, right? Because when I was delayed Tuesday, and I'm sure when Mike was delayed, you see families, you see parents with kids. That's just got to be absolute torture to deal with. One of the worst I ever had was the Super Bowl was in Atlanta years ago, and Atlanta had an ice storm. So I had to fly. Now this sounds like it's not going to be bad, but the trip getting there, the end trip was fine. We always flew from the Super Bowl to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl. This was when the Pro Bowl was after the Super Bowl. And we would fly after, and we would spend a week doing the shows when it was NFL Tonight, way, way, way back in the day before it was NFL Live at ESPN, to do the show. And me, Sean Salisbury, and Mark Malone were flying from Atlanta, an ice storm, where it was there all week, where the hotel didn't have any workers all week. The restaurants were closed all week. You had to try and find 7-Eleven type stores that were open around just to get some food. It was really bad. I mean, Atlanta, kind of like Dallas, not really ready when you got a bad snowstorm. And this was an ice freeze. So I get on the plane to go from Atlanta to Hawaii, and it's delayed. We actually sat in the plane on the run. This was before they changed the rules, for 8 hours. 8 hours. We were on the plane. We were acting like we were going. We weren't going. Then we had to go get de-iced again because you can only go a certain amount of time. So we went back and forth, and they kept saying, if we go back to the gate, we're going to lose our place in line. And I'm like, lose your place in line? This is 8 hours. So 8 hours. It was, and then we landed in San Francisco, had no connection, anymore. So we landed there at like midnight and had like a 5 o'clock flight. So we all had to get our luggage, which was a week stay in Atlanta and then a week in Hawaii, and go to a hotel for like 3 hours and then take it all back to the airport. And now, again, it ended up fine because we were in Hawaii, but just the travel there. I watched 3 complete movies on the plane before we even left.
I was going to say, how far is it from San Francisco to Hawaii? Like, how long is that flight? Because it sounds like between the time you were sitting there and then actually flying to San Francisco, you could have been in Hawaii by then.
Oh, yeah. I think we could have been. It was ridiculous. But, everybody's if you travel enough, you go through it, I guess, except for you, Jesse. Well, when the worst thing that happens to you is you have tough travel there by car and train and then get upgraded to the lay down seats when you're getting on. Oh, woe is you.
Some people just walk in the light,
But you did get puked on this morning, right? So
yeah, I did. So I was going to say, our show today, I wake up and I have a text from our producer, Slates, saying, FYI, GoJo has airport issues and won't be on the show today. And I woke up and my husband has had like a sinus infection all weekend. And then I woke up this morning feeling it. And so I'm like, oh God. So I don't feel well. GoJo's not going to be on the show. And then my son is 4.5 months old. And he wakes up between 6 and 7 a.m. Usually closer to like 6:20 is when he wakes up, which I love because I leave my house at 6:30. So I at least get to get him up and hold him and, give him his first bottle of the morning or whatever. So I did that as I normally do this morning. My nanny's walking in the door and I'm like, Jen, you're here. Let me hand you the baby. And then I got to head out to work. So I'm holding him on my shoulder. And then I go to literally take him like this to hand him to my nanny. And as I move him directly in front of me off the burp cloth, he just projectile spits up on me like a fountain, just all over me, all over my clothes. I mean, it was on my shoes. I had to change my outfit. Everything. I'm lucky it didn't get on my face. And then, so I'm driving into work, whatever, made the change, made it happen. I get here, no parking spots. No parking spots, senior. Your girl's driving around the block. 10 minutes, 15 minutes goes by. Finally, I got to throw it in the garage. $40. Throw it in the garage. Got to pay $40 now to park my car for the day. So you know what? The day is off to a hot start is what I'm going to say. It's a hot start, okay?
I guess it's all relative, right? I've had a fine night's. I didn't find out any of this until I woke up this morning and saw a bunch of emails that Mike wasn't going to make it. I hear you get thrown up on. You can't park. I'm like, okay, I'm the only one that's going into Monday very smoothly. So I'm happy about that. If only Team USA could have gone into their game a little more smooth, huh? I guess we'll say the men's side first, as they played South Sudan in an exhibition. A team, I think it's their second game when the Olympics actually start. I think they start out with Serbia, South Sudan, and then Puerto Rico. And they win this game by 1 point. They're down 14 at halftime to the Bright Stars. South Sudan, the Bright Stars. It's the first team to represent the country in the Olympics when it's going to arrive in Paris next week. Luol Deng, who played obviously a ton of years in the NBA, is the president of the South Sudan Basketball Federation. He really wants to build that program. And boy, you almost built it. The U.S. was a 43.5 point.
Yeah, 41.5 point
favorite. That's unbelievable. They were down 14 at halftime. Steve Kerr starts the second unit in the second half, and they build it. They cut into the lead some, but then the starters go back in and it goes back to double digits. And it's actually LeBron James, the old man of the group, who leads away with 23 points and hits the layup with 8 seconds to go to put them up 101 to 100. And South Sudan actually gets a decent looking shot off, a little running banker at the buzzer and just misses it, or they would have beaten us. So had to be a bit of a scare for Team USA. Steve Kerr is obviously taking it. He was saying he was kind of responsible for it, as a coach should do. And he also talked about the gap closing in world basketball.
What we've learned with USA Basketball is that the gap has closed. Nigeria beat us in a friendly in 21 in Las Vegas. So this is, it's not a shock to see a team, from South Sudan play really well and knock down threes. The game has gotten better across the globe. But we still feel like we always control the outcome with our performance. And as good as every other team is now, we still feel like it's up to us to determine the outcome based on our defense and our effort.
So, hey, listen, they should determine the outcome. And I get there's no doubt that world basketball has gotten better. I mean, we just see it time and time again. I completely get that. But I just don't think we should be challenged this much. And you heard LeBron in the hallway after the game saying, I'd rather get tested than have a blowout. But I don't know if a lot of people expected this one. This is not a team filled with NBA players. I think they had a guy on the team that lasted a very short time in the NBA. Mariel Shayok led the way with 24 points. The name of the game, JT Thor, man, that's a great name, had 14 points. Carla Jones had 15 points. They have a kid on their team, and I hope I pronounce it right, Kaman Malak. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He's a 7'2", 18-year-old. Now he's not the star of this team, but they're looking forward to him growing into this role. He's going to be a freshman at Duke to go along with Cooper Flagg, the projected number 1 pick in next year's NBA draft, the 6'9" kid. That's going to be a real interesting team, Duke, this year with those two. But a game, Jesse, that was certainly closer than we thought. People are saying, do we need to worry? I don't think we need to worry. I just think these guys were sleepwalking in the first half.
Yeah, what did you think, though, about LeBron? He had that run, right? 23-5 run from late in the third to early in the fourth. How do we feel about him being the one to sort of put Team USA on his back? Because there's kind of been a lot of talk about how some of these guys are getting a little older, LeBron being one of them. There's all these bright young stars, and we actually saw him be the one to come out. And Steve Kerr was saying when LeBron, wasn't started, when they came out in the third, I believe it was, he was like chomping at the bit. Steve Kerr could tell he was pissed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, LeBron was the guy. LeBron brought this team back. Like, as we said, 23 points, I think 6 rebounds, 6 assists, hit the game-winning layup with 8 seconds to go, which makes it even more interesting. Joel Embiid, now this was before the game was played. I don't think Joel would have said this after the game, considering LeBron somewhat carried them. But this was Joel Embiid before this game.
The talent that's on the US team, you also got to understand, like, most of those guys are also older. Like, LeBron now is not the LeBron that was a couple of years ago. So it's a big difference. So I think people get fooled by the names that are on paper. But, yeah, those names have been built throughout their career, and now they're older, so they're not what they used to be.
Well, LeBron's the one who had to go out there and put the team on his back, Joel. Come on.
Yeah, that was a cold take that went cold pretty quick. I think he taped that podcast a day or two before that game, and then you go back to the Dream Team with the names of Magic and Bird, and these guys were older players then, so it's kind of like this one that has some older players on it, like LeBron and Steph, who, yeah, maybe weren't what they were, but still they're some of the best players in the league. So that was a little not the greatest. Well, I think Embiid, what he was saying was true. They're not what they were, but the bad timing award of it coming out, I think by the time he taped it, I think this interview was actually played like the morning or the day of the game. So it didn't come across as very good there. But I'm really not worried about Team USA. I don't think there's going to be much of an issue here. South Sudan, let's see what they do. I mean, again, I was somewhat stunned to be down by 14, but they have a lot of really good athletes, and when you're playing basically with nothing to lose, you think you're going to get smoked by the USA team, and you're playing with not a lot to lose. You just kind of let caution, fly. And all of a sudden you're hitting threes. All of a sudden Team USA is turning the ball over and not hitting their shots. and that makes for a recipe of a possible upset. Now, I didn't think it was going to happen. I actually thought Team USA was going to pull away in the second half. 14 points is really nothing. I thought they were going to catch him and pull away and beat him. But to win only by 1 and really have South Sudan with the last shot in the air, a little banker that missed, and they actually got the rebound but couldn't get the ball back up in time, was a bit surprising for me. So is this a wake-up call to Team USA? You would think so, because again, we're in the position of going for 6 golds in a row now, I believe.
Yeah, and by the way, Team USA still minus 500 to win gold. So the futures markets have not been affected by this game at all.
But South Sudan's odds went way up, I think. I think that, and I
Team
guess that
USA
makes
not
sense.
affected, but South Sudan perhaps shooting up the board here. They're plus, it looks like, I can't even read that. What does that say? I don't know. Plus 25,000. I need to get my eyes checked, senior. Plus 25,000 for South Sudan. So, hey, never say never. I think this is the first team to represent South Sudan going into the Olympics. So pretty cool for them.
It is.
Yeah.
So, again, Luol Deng, who put this team together, the president of South Sudan Basketball Federation, is doing, he's had camps in Africa to try and find talent. And it's been pretty impressive what he's done. And Maluwach is his name, Kamen Maluwach. The 18-year-old just started playing basketball not that long ago, and now is going to Duke as a 7'2" freshman. So interesting what they'll do. I still think USA is primed to win this. We will see. And then on the women's side, at the All-Star game, they didn't have to go outside the country to get beat by a better team.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. No GoJo today, just Jesse Cofield and Mike Golic Sr. And Sr., the WNBA All-Stars came out swinging this weekend, took down Team USA 117-109. Arike Ogunbowale set a WNBA All-Star Game record with 34 points to earn her second All-Star Game MVP. And okay, Arike winning MVP is our Cash It or Trash It segment today because Senior, you cashed. Cash It or Trash It is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. So on Friday, we had you guys pick who would win MVP, and here is Senior.
Arike Ogunbowale is tied with Brianna Stewart and Brittany Griner as far as odds at plus 1,500. Tied for seventh as far as, where you land in winning the MVP. So I'm going to go with her. I'm going to say she goes off in this game and she's going to go ahead and get the MVP.
Yes, Senior, we got to give you your flowers. Let's go. She did it. And what do you think of the weekend's festivities overall? How'd you feel about everything?
Oh, they were great. I mean, I loved it. I always think the basketball, you had the 3-point contest, you had the skills challenge, and you had the game. And we're waiting for the ratings to come out. And I had said the ratings would beat the NBA All-Star Game. I think the NBA All-Star Game was a 4.6. We'll see what this comes out to be because this was competitive. But thought it was a great weekend, a great turnout. It's what the NBA All-Star Game is like with the WNBA, with the skills challenge the night before, a lot of the players showing up there and hanging out and having a good time. And then the game was competitive right out of the gate. You look at Team USA after that game, there wasn't a smile on any of their faces. They were ticked off. They were not happy at all how that game went. And you had the two rookies again, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese doing their thing. Now, Caitlin Clark did not shoot well from the field at all. I think it was 0 for 7 from 3. She only had 4 points in the game, but she did have 10 assists, most for a rookie in an All-Star game, one away from Sue Bird's record in the All-Star game, but most by a rookie in an All-Star game. And Angel Reese just continues with the double-doubles. I mean, she is amazing. She is, I love watching aggressive and good timing and good play in rebounding. I think she had 10 or 11 rebounds, 5 on the offensive board, had 12 points to go along with it. I love the way just absolutely love the way she plays in the middle. She is tenacious, has great timing on her jumps, great positioning, great blockout ability as well. So I am such a big, I know that the scoring is the big thing, but give me some good defense and some good rebounding with what Angel Reese did. I was really, really impressed. But Arike Ogunbowale, 34 points. You know how much she had at halftime? 0.
0, yeah.
0. She had set another WNBA All-Star Game record. She had 21 points in the third quarter. Cheryl Swoops, the coach, I think that was their coach, right? Cheryl Swoops.
Cheryl Miller there.
Cheryl Miller.
Yep.
Yeah, Cheryl Miller. She was interviewed a couple times too. She was funny. She was great.
Oh, yeah.
But she kind of challenged Arike in the locker room at halftime to go out and play her game. And Arike certainly did. Plays for Dallas, the team with the worst record in the WNBA going into this break. And she was absolutely fantastic. But Cheryl Reeves, the coach for Team USA, not real happy, especially with the defense. The defense, they gave up 52 points in the paint, did Team USA on the WNBA All-Star. So that was bad on their part. Again, do I think that there's going to be an issue in the Olympics? No, I still think we're the best team. I think A'ja Wilson's the best player on the planet. It's her and Brianna Stewart's team, no doubt about that. But I don't think, and they may get challenged some, but I don't know how much. But it was pretty impressive. And I think the thing that people like about it, and I've come full circle on this too, Jesse, the All-Star games, to me, they're exhibitions. But every now and then when you get this happened in 21, when they got ready for the Olympics, and WNBA team beat Team USA there again and beat them 2 times in a row now. So there is on the WNBA All-Star side, there are players like Arike Ngumbawale. We keep talking about Caitlin Clark should have been on the Olympic team. Arike has a great case that she should have been on the Olympic team. 3rd leading scorer in the league. And maybe she should have been on this team. So they want to show out against the Olympians and say, you got it wrong, or make a showing for the next Olympics as well. And she certainly did. The two rookies, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, talked about, playing together, especially Angel Reese, about how she looks forward to continue to playing with Caitlin Clark, hopefully in the Olympics in 28. And I would say that's a pretty good bet that's going to happen. Caitlin Clark's comments after the game were more about Arike Ngumbawale and watching her do her thing.
In my eyes, she's the best one-on-one player in this league. Like, she just has that skill. Like, she can get whatever shot whenever she wants it. That's how good she is with the ball. So it was fun to watch. Like, that's exciting for me. Like, I haven't always been on that side of it where, you have a teammate that goes kind of crazy like that. So for me, like, on the bench, like, they tried to sub me in for her. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay over here on the bench. Let her do her thing.
Caitlin Clark always saying the right thing. And she was just like, yep, I just loved watching her play. And who wouldn't have loved watching her play after she went off like that in the second half? And I wouldn't want to sub in for her either. Jesus. Yeah,
she's hot. It's a close game, and she's kind of running it. So let her do her thing. Caitlin Clark brings the ball up. They were so fast in bringing the ball up, even when the women's national team would make a basket, they get the ball in quick to Clark. She sprints up the court. I mean, it was a competitive running game that we don't normally see. And that's what I was saying earlier is I don't mind when these all-star games aren't really competitive because, sometimes players don't want to get hurt. Players are looking forward to the break. Players are looking to have a good time. And the games used to be competitive, in the NFL, the Pro Bowl, baseball all-star game, and you got Pete Rose sliding headfirst and taking people out. The NBA game used to be, but it's kind of changed a little bit, Jesse, and I really don't mind it.
I just wanted to go back to something you said earlier. You said Arike Ngumbawale made a case for she should have been on the team, but she has been in the pool for the last 2 Olympics. Yeah. Didn't make the roster either time, obviously, but she pulled her name out of the pool of players early this time, saying that the whole process was political. So you're absolutely right. She made a case for herself, and perhaps what's going on with the selection process if a player like this is pulling her name out.
Well, I had said it when everybody was saying Caitlin Clark should have made the team because of what she has meant to the WNBA, and she's a good player. But as I also said, who you're pulling off this roster, Arike Ngumbawale, I think deserved more. I think she was the one player on the All-Stars, if you had to pick one, that I thought even before what she did in the All-Star game, I thought she deserved to be on. And who you're pulling off, Diana Taurasi, who's going for her 6th gold medal. Who you got to take off of that position at the guard position. So who you taking off, but maybe that would have been the one, possibly. But the backcourt of Chelsea Gray and Diana Taurasi was not great in this game by any stretch. So I'm sure they'll get better and be fine. But Ngumbawale certainly made a case to say, you know what, next time around, let's not have this ridiculous process where I'm left out. I should be on this team. She played really well. But do you have any worries about Team USA and the women's side going forward in the Olympics?
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
You do?
Taurasi's 42. Did you see her after the game? She was like, this SH, sucks. Yeah. She was going off. She was saying, like, we got to be better. And, I think she's absolutely right. I think for the most part, you're right. We shouldn't be worried. But stuff like this, you can see breakdowns. And hopefully this mirrors what happened in Tokyo and they got beat, against the All-Stars and then they go out and win gold. Right. Hopefully that's what we're going to see. But you never know. I don't know. It wasn't too smooth from my perspective.
I'm still good on our stars taking over there, and I'm good on Xander Schauffele winning the Open in some horrific weather on Saturday. He comes through Saturday and Sunday, gets his 2nd major. We'll chat about that next. Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Sr. here, Jesse Caulfield in the studios in Boston. My son Mike is laying on a hotel floor, I think, in Minneapolis at this point. Couldn't even get a hotel room. Has traveled to Cincinnati to golf in Jordan Cornett's golf tournament. Got blown up. So he's scrambling now even to get back home to California. Kind of the same thing I went through on Tuesday when I was coming back from Lake Tahoe. So travel issues, which I'm sure many, they were showing the news, Jesse, when the delays and cancellations were going on. What an absolute nightmare that's got to be when you're standing in line to rebook a flight, never knowing if you're going to get a seat. It's got to be horrific.
I had a friend who was on an airplane, sitting in her seat, ready to go, and they said, "Sorry, flight's canceled. You got to get off." Had to just walk off the plane and missed her weekend plans. And, it is what it is. But yeah, total nightmare city. And like you've said before, cannot imagine being in that situation while traveling with children. Just seventh circle of hell stuff.
Without a doubt. And you think, even when you get on the plane and you push back, you're safe. It may be a while, but you're going to take off. And it's the worst when you get out there and they turn around and you got to come back. But yeah, when you're with kids, and man, if you're someone not traveling with kids and kids are crying and struggling, be supportive. Don't be mean. Or man, you're going to get what you get coming to you if you are, because it's not like parents want their kids to cry.
No one's having a worse time than the parent in that situation.
That's exactly right. He goes, let's do a 180 to who's having their best time, and that's Xander Schauffele, who wins his second major of the year. He won the PGA, and now he wins the Open. He was actually top 8 in all 4 majors in the same season. And since 1980, it's been Tiger Woods twice, 2000, 2005, Jordan Spieth in 15, and Xander this year being in the top 8 in all 4 majors. Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau were top 8 in 3 of the 4, but Xander was in 4 of 4. And I know he shot the 65 on Sunday when he started off the lead in that one, but it really was Saturday. The horrific, and this is what I love. This is what I love about the Open. I like when they're just like us. And what it takes is horrible playing conditions, because we wouldn't be out of. People always say, what would you shoot if you played in those conditions on Saturday? I said, I wouldn't have played. I would not have chosen to play in that situation. I would not have gone out in the rain and the bitter cold with the wind whipping. I would not have done it, because I do it for the pure joy of it. Now, if I'm not going to have a good time, I'm not doing it. These guys are pros and have to. And he actually shot a 69 on Saturday, which was amazing, absolutely amazing for what he did as people were falling by the wayside. 10 of the top 20 players in the world didn't even make the cut. We didn't have a chance to talk about that because that happened after the show on Friday, after the second day. It was absolutely brutal. Tiger not making it, I don't think many people are shocked, but Rory McIlroy. How about Rory, his second day on the 4th hole, I think he triple bogeyed to quadruple bogeyed. And at that, he was 22 holes in, and basically said he was thinking about his vacation and where he was going to go on his vacation, because he knew he was out of it. He knew he was not going to get back in this thing or even make the cut. So he started thinking, and people were ripping him, saying he was thinking that. But I mean, a lot of stuff goes through your mind. You got time on the golf course when you're walking. And when you're walking and you're playing that bad, you got a lot of bad thoughts that go through your mind.
See, I don't golf, so I don't know about this, but it seems like you golfers are all head cases.
Oh, it's brutal. Jesse, it's brutal. And it's something they do for a living, we don't do for a living. When I played football, didn't let anything get to you because it's what I did. But when it's not something you do, man, everything affects you. Like I said, as you're walking or taking your golf cart to your ball, you're thinking about what all the mechanical things you think about, and you screw up your swing and it gets in your head. But man, these guys were just playing in horrible. Even yesterday, even on Sunday, the wind was gusting in the 20 miles an hour range on these holes. It was just brutal. But Saturday with the rain was just awful. So it was pretty impressive by him kind of holding it together when guys were falling by the wayside, trying to make a run at him and couldn't. And now Xander gets to head to Paris. He's trying to defend his gold medal he won at the last Olympics. So it's Xander's world right now.
So I got a question for you as a golfer, okay? So we got on Twitter somebody pitching something here, which is basically we need a links golf month for the pros. An entire month of these guys playing true links courses, Scottish and British and Irish Opens, and one more event for good measure. Did you like watching them play the links courses? Would you be into something like this?
I played the links for the first time last August. I went to, me and my wife went to Ireland to watch Notre Dame play. And I golfed a couple of times with some Notre Dame people on 2 links courses. And let me tell you, it's now the first day it was a little bit rainy. It wasn't awfully cold, so I stayed out there. I didn't wuss out. I stayed out there even though it was raining some. But it's brutal. You go in the rough on that stuff, and it's done. You're hacking out of that stuff, especially when it's wet. It's brutal. But I love seeing the guys struggle. I love seeing them. The bunkers on the links courses are ridiculous. I see them hit out of it. They're almost on the face. Sometimes they have to hit it sideways to get out, but sometimes they're going right over it. It's unreal. The loft they get onto the ball, it shows their incredible talent of doing that. But, oh, my God, I would love to see a bunch of links play. I think it's awesome the way you kind of line drive your shots and use the roll and how you're playing, even the fairways, how they're hilly, how you're playing them, try and stay out of all the freaking bunkers that are everywhere. I think it's great. But it was, interesting Sunday. Daniel Brown started the day 1 shot behind Billy Horschel. He's attempted to become just the 4th golfer since 1900 to win a major in his debut. He was talked about Daniel Brown. Could he do it? He ended up carding 4 bogeys on the final round, front 9, finished even on the weekend and tied for 10th. So starts today 1 shot behind the lead, ends up 10th. I mean, that just can show you what can happen on a golf course because of weather or just because of the golf course, whether you're used to links or not. So, and then Xander seemed to get a little emotional afterward, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he had a great moment with his dad. Stefan wasn't there when he won at Valhalla, but he was there to watch him become a 2-time major champion, and they were so excited to be together and to celebrate after his win. Pretty cool. Look at this. Oh, man. When you get your moment, his dad's nickname's the Ogre, as you can see here. His dad's the big guy. His nickname is the Ogre, and he couldn't wait to drink out of the claret jug with his dad.
Oh, that is very cool. That is absolutely so cool.
Yeah.
To get to share those moments, we see that a lot. Of afterwards, them sharing moments with a parent, a wife, whatever, their kids, whatever. But it's a nice moment. He said, I was reading about Xander said, I sat down with my dad when I was maybe 15 or 16, and we started to really hash out some goals and dreams of what I'd like to do. I was on the couch with my dad a lot, watching guys win majors and win big tournaments. My dad and I, we've definitely talked about this. We've watched the walk up 18 pretty much every year until I played the Open. It's definitely something we both dreamed about. How neat is that? You're sitting there on the couch, 15, 16 years old. You're like a freshman and sophomore in high school, and you're watching majors and dreaming of doing that someday, saying, yeah, we're gonna get to that point. We're going to be walking up the 18th winning major. So good for him. Wins his second. Be interesting player of the year between Scotty Scheffler, who won 6 tournaments this year, including a major, or Xander Schauffele, who won 2 majors this year. Will be very interesting to see which way that goes. Coming up next, we have got NFL camps opening up all over the place. Football is right on the horizon. We could not be happier. So let's check out the AFC South coming up next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Jesse Cofield, Mike Golic Sr. GoJo is out, having some travel issues, so he will be back tomorrow, hopefully. But we are less than 2 weeks away from somewhat competitive NFL football being played, and we absolutely cannot wait. The Hall of Fame game between the Texans and Bears will be next Thursday night. Following up to the game, we're going to be previewing every division in football. So here's a look at this week's schedule as we tackle the AFC South today. So today, AFC South, like I said, tomorrow AFC North, AFC East on Wednesday, AFC West on Thursday, and we'll get a full AFC outlook on Friday, bringing it all together. So, like I said, going team by team, you're going to tell us one thing, Senior, that you're focusing on in the lead up to the season, okay? So let's start out with the Texans here. Reloaded in a big way this offseason around C.J. Stroud as they look to repeat as champs of the division. What are you looking at this team as we head into the season here?
Well, I'm looking at Joe Mixon. You know, the running game wasn't very good. The passing game, what Stroud did was great. But I'm kind of looking at Joe Mixon, what he is going to bring. We saw what he could do in Cincinnati, running the ball and catching the ball. So I'm looking for more production out of the running back position. And that can certainly be affected by the old line, Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. He was a second-round draft pick. Juice Scruggs is moving to center for that team. So they're shifting around the O-line a little bit. So I think that will be an interesting move for them. Houston's offense last year was 6th in red zone passing and 30th in red zone rushing. So again, Joe Mixon's not like a big bruising back, but I'm looking for a little better rushing is where I'm going to go with them. I think that's where they need to pick it up defensively. The line a little bit changed. I think just 2, including Will Anderson on that D line. They've made some changes on that defensive front. D'Amico Ryan, the head coach, a defensive coach, is certainly trying to take care of that side of the ball. But we'll see if the running attack can live up a little more to help the passing attack.
And C.J. Stroud, obviously not the question mark on this team, but anywhere when you look at his game that you feel he can really improve?
Well, I mean, I'm just hoping he can hold and do what he did again. Right? I mean, because you saw him grow into the position extremely well. A la Jordan Love, who had been on the roster but not had been starting, but you saw him kind of grow in that position. So I think if he did exactly the same thing, you should be ecstatic. You look for a big jump between freshman and sophomore year or rookie and second year in this case. But you get a big jump, you're going to be talking about a guy in the MVP race. But I don't know if we'll see that big a jump. If he could hold even, I would be happy with that.
All right, let's move on to America's team, Emerson Lazia's team, the Jags here. What do you think about this, Senior? Is there enough components around Trevor Lawrence to help him take the next step?
Well, I mean, you had Gabe Davis at wide receiver. I think that was a good pickup. Mitch Morris to help on the offensive line. So I think their strength of schedule, they're tied for the, I think, 8th as far as hardest schedule. I would say be careful of loading up Travis Etienne too much at the running back position. Doug Peterson said he was going to try and do that. He ended up, I think, 3rd in the league with most touches with 325 touches. So you want to be careful of that. So you're looking for more consistency. As I mentioned, Mitch Morris takes over at center. The other 4 you're pretty much square with. So you want to keep that chemistry and consistency going with the O-line. It's good you're only changing one person there, it looks like. So I think that's going to be a key for them. Defensively, Ryan Nielsen, he comes in at D coordinator. He was with Atlanta and New Orleans a couple of years before. It's his 3rd team in as many seasons. But he's helped. In 22, he helped the Saints defense finish tied for 10th in scoring and tied for 5th in yards. And last year, he improved the Falcons defense from the bottom tier to its best rankings in 6 seasons. So we'll see what he can do on that side of the ball.
All right, let's move on to the Colts here, Senior. Can Anthony Richardson sustain last year's pace? What do we think? I mean, a lot of pressure.
Well, yeah, 4 rushing touchdowns and 8 other rushes for a first down in just 4 games. So do the math. It's pretty easy. You know, a touchdown a game, that would come out to 18 or 17 games, 18 when they go to the 18-game schedule. But, I mean, week 1 concussion. Then he gets an ankle injury. Then he needs shoulder surgery. So while he's a big guy, he got banged around and had some injury issues. So that's going to be a key for him, keeping him healthy. Didn't really have a lot of additions. So they are kind of as is. They ended Raekwon Davis and Joe Flacco. They have the biggest quarterback room in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. Extended Michael Pittman, Zaire Franklin, DeForest Buckner. They spent money to bring back their own, which was a good thing. So I do like where they are. Houston, this is their division, absolutely no doubt about that. But I'm interested in where the Colts can go from the O-line situation, which Quentin Nelson, a guy who's been playing at a Hall of Fame level, he was actually nicked up a little bit last year. They're sending Ryan Kelly looking for a new deal. So we'll see where that goes. But they've lived on this O-line and a running game to help the quarterback. But boy, if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, that's easily the biggest question, not only for this team, but really one of the big questions in the league is what can Anthony Richardson do if he stays healthy? So we'll have to wait and see on that. But I think this is a team that can compete while it's Houston's division. Where do you go after that? I'm sure you go Jacksonville, and then I would say the Colts, and then I know we're going to finish up with Tennessee.
Yeah, let's finish up with Tennessee right now. Let's talk about the Titans. What do you think Brian Callahan's going to bring to this offense?
Well, I mean, brought his dad, which was good for the O-line. They're going to need some assistance there on the O-line. So, listen, Will Levis, it's his team now, without question. He is the guy. He's got a gun for an arm, absolute gun for an arm. But he was real inaccurate. He completed, I think, just over 58% of his passes, he was 32nd among qualifying quarterbacks with over 238 attempts. But, you know, they brought in Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, and they have Hopkins. So they have put some receivers around him, which has been good. Remember, this is the first year in a long time that you're going without some guy named Derrick Henry, right? I mean, in what he has been able to do. And now it's going to be more on a group by committee, a running attack. And it's going to be on Will Levis, wide receiver. So that's going to be tough. The tough part for them is, can he improve upon his accuracy? They say that's one of the hardest things to improve upon. But we saw Eli Manning. He was under 60% completion when he first got in the league. Not to say Will's going to end up like Eli, but you can improve on your completion percentage just by reading better, throwing better, timing better, getting work with your receivers, having your O-line protect you. And it's a young quarterback. Again, now it's his team this whole offseason as he prepares for the next thing. So they're probably fourth, I would imagine, in this division coming up. But it will be interesting what Brian Callahan can bring.
All right, final thoughts on AFC South here as we just finish our preview for them today. Like I said, we'll go through all the teams in the AFC this week. But any final thoughts you want to wrap up here?
Well, I think two things, and it's not shocking about two quarterbacks. It's about Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. The expectation for C.J. Stroud to stay up in the elite is going to be high because he did it as a rookie. Can he do that? That is, and he's got a hell of a receiving core. Getting Stephon Diggs in with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I mean, he's got a nice crew in there. So he's got the potential to do that. And then, as I said, Anthony Richardson, his size, his athletic ability, and what he did early on, but getting 3 different nicks on you in a matter of 4 games and then being out for the season can be very, very, very difficult. So Houston, definitely the flavor of that division. And we'll see if Emerson's Jacksonville Jaguars can do anything. Coming up next, though, we go to Detroit. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, going in the Ring of Honor. How is he digging that? back, GoJo and Golic. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jessie Cofield in the studios in Boston. My son Mike is, we don't know. Last
we really don't
knew
know.
He was sleeping on the floor in the Minneapolis airport, trying to get to Chicago to get back to LA because he couldn't get to Cincinnati yesterday to golf in a charity golf tournament. So he went from LA to Minneapolis to the floor to Chicago to hopefully home some point today instead of going to Cincinnati. So where in the world is GoJo? Like, where in the world is Waldo? We don't know.
You know,
but he is
I think, Senior, though, you were saying that when this happened to you after Tahoe the other weekend, that you at least were able to get yourself a hotel room for the night. I'm going to be honest. If I found myself in this situation, I think I'd rather just sleep at the airport because I have travel anxiety about like showing up places with enough time. And I think that I would totally freak myself out if I had to like go to a hotel for a couple hours and then come back and you got to go through security and you got to figure it all out. I think that would just stress me out. So Senior, just sleeping on a chair in the airport might be the way to go.
Well, as long as you can get a decent place to sleep, I think that would be the that would be the king there, or the key there. Like I had to sleep on the floor in Dallas. I think he is sleeping on some kind of chair combination in Minneapolis. So I didn't mind when I was in Vegas. I went to a hotel for 3 hours and it was okay to get up and go back. But I would imagine our next guest has had a great football career, obviously in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and going into the Pride of the Lions Ring of Honor during halftime of their game September 30th on Monday Night Football. But Calvin Johnson joining us now. I'm wondering, Calvin, congrats on all of this, and we're going to get to it. But do you have a worst travel experience? My son is sleeping on the floor in Minneapolis through the night to try and get a flight to get back home, and it's been brutal. I would imagine through your years in travel, you've had some bad experiences.
Man, I have to say, over these last couple of years, man, it's just been getting worse. You know, we just came down to Florida a couple of days ago, right on the day that the blue screen attack happened. Fortunately, we were able to get out after however many delays. But the worst travel experience I had was earlier this year. We were going through security, and my wife got this thing on her boarding pass that said SSSS. If you ever see 4 S's on your boarding pass, just know you're about to go through the ringer and you're not going to make your flight. They basically put her through every security check. They questioned her. I mean, we were sitting there and people were just walking around TSA. They weren't even helping us. They were just treating her like she was like a leper or something, just like not touching her. I was like, what in the world is going on? We have known traveler numbers. We travel all the time, but we were usually traveling on Delta. The case in this situation, we went over to American and it was tough.
SSSS. I've never heard of that. It sounds horrible.
Sounds like you don't want it to happen to you, Senior. Definitely not.
No, I do not. I do not want it. What I would have liked happen to me is had the career that Calvin Johnson had, inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame 2021, and again is going to go into the Lions Pride of Lions, the Ring of Honor, during halftime of their game September 30th, Monday Night Football against Seattle. So you've had the Hall of Fame experience. What does this experience mean to you?
Just to have this happen at home in front of the home team, I feel like Detroit has some of the best fans. We've gone on 16. They're still there. We've been through obviously all the ups and downs, but they've always been consistent. So to be able to do it in front of them, in front of my peers, the guys I played with, and obviously just, this ownership group and the team that's being put together to do it in front of all these guys, it definitely carries a lot of weight. It's an honor and one to be in there with all the greats that are in the pride of in the ring of I can't even say it, the pride of ring and pride. Goodness gracious. Sound I'm talking about Lion King or something.
Yeah. Well, it's the Lion, so Lion King would not be a bad reference at all. How does it also feel? You're going to be going back into a building for, two guys you kind of feel for are yourself and Barry Sanders of playing in Detroit, and the winning was tough. Listen, it was what it was. It was a tough go. Now you see this team as one of the top and one of the favorites in the NFC. So what is that like to see this team performing the way they are?
It's a beautiful thing, you know. We have player coaches throughout this team. Obviously, Dan is a player coach, and I always say, man, when you have guys that have been, you know, where the guys that are actually playing, they've been to the places that those guys want to go. Those guys are going to buy in, and we saw this team buy in not last season, but really the second half of the season before. And ever since then, they've just been on an upward trend.
You were teammates with Dan, were you not?
I was.
I saw how you see him on the sideline as a coach. Was he exactly like that as a player?
Same guy, man. You know, gritty, comes to work every day in, day out. You know, one thing I respect most about Dan, you know, he was our starting tight end in the NFL. Obviously, it's a ton of talent in this league, man. But the guy's out there starting. He's playing with a torn up shoulder, and he started, you know, I don't know how many games that year, but he's looking like RoboCop. But he was able to do his job and do it successfully. And, you know, so I respect the heck out of Dan. He was a great teammate. And just to see him, what he's doing with his team, see that great energy that he has, it's definitely pouring over to the cast, to the team, and the coaching staff as well.
So your last year was 2015. Have you seen a difference, significant difference, no difference in kind of the wide receiver, the way they're playing and using the NFL?
Oh man, I mean, definitely. You're seeing. Obviously, it's the offensive league, you know, so it's less run. It seems like sometimes and more pass. But I mean, that's what puts points on the board. That's what keeps people in the stand. So I think that's, you know, what we're going to continue to see. You know, in the meantime.
What would it mean to Detroit if they were to actually get to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl?
I mean, I think Detroit might burn down. You know, we went into accidentally, not on purpose. You know, somebody just going to, you know, kick, you know, fireworks going to be going off everywhere. Just something's going to happen just because people aren't going to be able to control themselves. They're going to be in their emotions. And I just tell you, man, the energy that we still have right now from last year's run, I can only imagine if we were just get to the Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl. This town would never live that down.
Can you go back to, you got into the league in 2007 from Georgia Tech? And what were your goals coming into the NFL, and how, and obviously, you know, Hall of Fame player pretty much says it all, but when you first started out, what were those goals?
No, that's a good question, man. When I first came into the league, you know, I wanted to play 10 years. I wanted to have 10,000 yards. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to make a statement, you know, just make my presence known here in the league. And I played 9 years. You know, I accomplished all the other goals I wanted to accomplish, you know, just not, I guess, the longevity one. But it just came to a point in time where I was like, man, body's had enough. I'm not loving it like I used to because it's too much pain. But those are the goals I had. It was very simple but broad goals. You know, it wasn't going to be easy to get there over the course of 10 years, having 1,000 yards a year. But it was something that was realistic, I felt like, and, you know, we were able to attain it.
Yeah, didn't get the 10 years. You got 9, but you got over 10,000 yards. You got 11,619 to be exact. So that worked out for you. I always like asking players, when you first got into the league, now you were certainly a high pick, you know, second pick in the draft. When though physically, when you got on the field, did you feel like, okay, I can do this game. I can be good in this league?
It was the second half of my rookie season. I had a little bit of injury in the first half. You know, my back was real jacked up. But, you know, in the second half of the season, maybe like the last 4 games, I was able to get out there and play a little more freely. Coach Mike Marks, you know, he put me in the starting lineup that during the second half of that season. And it was during that time I was going against the guys of the likes of, like, you know, I was going to Charles Woodson and Al Harris and Green Bay. And those guys taught me a lot of lessons I was able to take early on and apply the rest of my career.
You know, the Olympics in 2028 is going to have flag football, and it's possible you may have some NFL receivers in there. Is that something you would have done? Or, hey, you'll only be 42 at the time. Maybe you make a comeback in the flag football world.
Man, you know, you dang right I'll be in that, man. I used to love 7-on-7. I was 7-on-7 king. I would dunk on everybody out there, man. They would have been getting in the Olympics. You know, I would have been mossing them in the Olympics if this was during my prime.
Calvin, I got a question for you because
yeah.
Senior is not the greatest with the internet, but I'm a millennial, so I'm going to jump in here and ask this question. So in 2011, week 13, Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams had two guys lined up on you, right? Do you remember this picture that has now gone down as a meme? Senior, I'll explain to you what a meme is later. Calvin, do you remember this moment? Did you realize it would become such a big part of the internet lore?
You know, it's so funny. I was so juiced up for that game, first playoff game, but I remember that specific moment. I was more annoyed than anything. I'm like, God dang it, man. I'm sitting here like, dang, Matt's not going to throw me the ball. I'm not even going to get a look right here. So more than anything, I was more frustration because, like, I was ripping them up that game. I was so juiced up.
And I just want to ask you another quick question about your company, Primitive, here. Something that helped you be, you know, we're an incredible player, and so you know what it takes to take care of your body and all that stuff.
Yeah, you know, we got into the cannabis industry and Primitive, and really because we knew what cannabis was, the healing power that it had, and really the biggest thing for us at the time was the recovery aspect from it. But now what we're doing with Primitive Performance in our new company and being able to be a partner with professional teams is we want to get our product in professionals' hands. We're taking the things that we use while we're professional players in topicals and rehydration solutions and adding an anti-inflammatory component and cannabinoids to those products, CBD, CBG, CBN, and CBC in specific. So there's a THC-free product that we make. And we're also an NSF for sport cleared so that our products can be used by professional athletes without them having the fear of getting popped for any PEDs or such. So it's awesome to be, you know, like I said, we're partners with the Detroit Tigers and Ford Field, obviously Ford Field because the NFL hasn't sanctioned cannabinoids. So that's why it's just Ford Field and not the Lions.
I meant to ask about this. Listen, the NFL is king as far as sports in the United States. We know that. It's the most popular sport by far. But they do seem to be slow acting and reacting to things. And this seems to be one of them. I would imagine you would agree. I know plenty of others who are former players in the CBD industry where the how much more it helps than opioids, which God knows I took enough of those. And how CBD would help instead of, are you surprised that the NFL is not kind of jumped into this yet?
Yes and no. I say yes because you know it's not technically federally legal, and I kind of expect them to move those with federal guidelines. But no, because you know a ton of other leagues have gone this way. There's a ton of research money that the NFL is putting into it now. But at the end of the day, the collective bargaining agreement that's a huge bargaining chip for the players. You know, the CBA, and when that comes back around, I don't know if it's maybe 4 or 5 years out from now. But the owners are going to use that as a huge bargaining chip with the players. So players, you want to get rid of, testing of cannabinoids? Okay, well, give us something too. You know, I feel like that's a big reason why it hasn't gone anywhere yet because they know that's going to be a huge bargaining chip on the table when the time comes.
Yeah, it is amazing what the CBA and bargaining. If you give, you got to give. So what's going to go on there? But I would, definitely expect something to happen there. But certainly the NFL, while again most popular, can be slow moving to change as well. You also have your Catching Dreams Foundation. Fill us in and catch us up to date on that.
Man, last week we had an awesome weekend. Obviously, our biggest initiative with the Catch Dreams Foundation or Calvin Johnson Dream Foundation, our motto is Catching Dreams for our student athletes. It's to give scholarships to deserving students in both Atlanta and Detroit. I started my golf outing 2 years ago now. Big thing behind our golf outing is, like I say, to bring in more funds so that we don't have to alternate between Atlanta and Detroit and just give scholarships in both places every year. We still have goals that we're looking to aspire to as far as the amount of monies that we're given to the scholars. But what inspired me to do that is my sister received a Jackie Robinson scholarship back in the day. So just seeing the benefit that can give the families both financially, mainly financially, it's a huge relief in the community. And being able to provide that for my community, both Atlanta and Detroit, is everything. Obviously, we do a lot of other initiatives from feeding the homeless to helping abused families. But that's one of our biggest initiatives. And we had a ton of support this year. We had Hall of Famers and Randy Moss and Charles Haley come out. Torrey Holt was out there. I had a ton of teammates from college. Trying to think, Jeff Backus, Rob Sims, Braylon Edwards, ton of NFL guys, and we were able to, have my gala. I have a conference where I bring back all of my scholars to put in front of them mentors and spaces that they want to go and places that, put in front of people that they want to be like. We also have our camp. That's why I bring all those pros in just to dump into the kids. We literally just dump. And we hope that they can just catch one thing out of there. Some of these life lessons is obviously trying to elevate them on the football field, but life experience too. And then we finished up with our golf outing. We did it at Detroit Golf Club this year. It was amazing. They did a great job for us. So, all around a great weekend. We're actually on vacation now because after that, me and my siblings, after all the work, we come chill out for a couple of days. And no, it was a great weekend though. We were able to help out a lot of people, and we, those people that we help, they help us out too. Just being able to give. There's a certain level of gratitude that comes or that you get from giving to folks. So, it's a pleasure to be able to do it. We've been doing it for 18 years now, I believe.
Wow. That's just, and we love to highlight what players and former players are doing because so many are out there doing it. And sometimes fans just see them on the field and only know them as players, but don't realize how much they're giving back to the community. So I saw you mentioned one of your camp coaches, Randy Moss. Who wins a high point contest, you or Randy?
Man, I'm just being me. I feel like I was the best, high pointer in the league history.
I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you at all.
I'm sure Randy gonna say the same thing, but I say, hey, I got it from you, Randy. Hey, you inspired me.
You finished up with 6 consecutive years over 1,000 yards. In 2012, you had 36 yards under 2,000. You had 1,964 yards. You feel like you'd be breaking that 2,000-yard barrier in today's game the way they're whipping the ball around?
Heck yeah. I should have broken it that year. I just think back. I know I had at least 1 or 2 passes that was either 2 for 20 yards or one for one big one probably that year. That's damn, that was it right there.
Well, that would have absolutely been something. Well, Calvin, listen, congratulations again. Already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2021, now going to the Pride of the Lions, the Ring of Honor, during halftime of their game, Monday Night Football, September 30th. Going to be great for you, not only going into the stadium and into the Pride of the Lions, but seeing a team that has a legitimate chance to represent out of the NFC. Should be a fantastic night for them and certainly for you. Congratulations on yet another great honor. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys. And you see how that's a mouthful. Pride of the Lions, Ring of Honor. Okay, I got it.
It is certainly a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. No doubt about it. Pride of the Lions. Congrats, Calvin. Thanks.
Thanks. Good to see you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. That's Calvin Johnson of the Detroit Lions. Like I said, Jesse, for him and Barry Sanders, two of the greatest to play in that franchise's history, and to just go through the losing that they went through, that's just got to mount up so badly. And now, though, to see you got to be kind of split to see the team doing well. You got to be happy for them and damn, why couldn't have we had a little bit of that, right?
Happy but punch in the air a little bit. Yeah, happy but punch in the air a little bit. But did you see Calvin Johnson was ranked 57 on the ESPN list of 100 athletes of the 21st century? I feel like 57's a little low for him, but okay.
Very, man, to do that list, I know Michael Phelps was number 1 on that list. To do that list, the criteria, I'm not sure how it all went. So, but it's a list, and a list is what you do in the summertime like this, and you argue about a list in the summertime like this. But 57, listen, of all time of the top 100 would not be bad. I would like to be listed 57, even if you feel it's too low. But again, what a great career he had. 9 years, 7 of them over 1,000 yards, just 2 of them under, and 1 was only under by 16 yards, had 984 yards in 2009. So just an absolutely incredible career for one Calvin Johnson. All right, coming up next, it's time to look around the weekend and give out our all-weekend team awards. That's coming up next here on GoJo and Golic.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Jesse Cofield here, along with Mike Golic Sr. We don't know where GoJo is. He's having travel issues. He will be back tomorrow. He's somewhere in the world. But now it's time for us to take a look back at the weekend that was and give our all-weekend teams. So we're going honorable mention, we're going second team, we're going first team. So we're going to start with honorable mention, like I said. And Senior, my honorable mention is that Bob Baffert has had his suspension rescinded by Churchill Downs. And I'm actually saying boo this man. Boo this man. Bob Baffert
Really?
should... Yeah, I'm saying boo this man. Okay, a Washington Post report in 2021 revealed that Baffert's stable had 8.3 horse deaths per 1,000 starts in California since 2000, the highest rate among the state's 10 trainers. I think that he should not have his suspension rescinded. He basically, you remember what happened with Medina Spirit? Really sad that horse won the Derby, had to be euthanized due to a heart attack. There were some questionable substances being used. I don't know, Senior. I'm saying boo Bob Baffert, boo this man.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
take.
you're really, yeah, your hot take. You're booing him. You're wishing the suspension wasn't lifted.
Yeah.
I listen. It certainly there are some questionable things that have gone on there. I am not versed enough in that sport to know, but certainly you're suspended for a reason. But, you know, as you mentioned, suspension now lifted, so he's going to be back at it again, even though you don't think he should be back at it. Okay?
All right. What about your honorable mention, Senior? Who are you going with?
I'm going with Shohei Ohtani. 400. He got his 30th home run of the season. He, for the fourth year in a row, he's had 30 home runs now. And I'm sure that streak is going to continue. But this was a 473 shot that almost went on the roof of the stadium. It just was below the roof, between the roof and another sign. It was an incredible shot. There were some long home runs hit. I think it was yesterday. Someone hit like a 478 foot one as well. His was 473. But he's, you know, we know the deal he signed. We know he's not pitching this year. He's just batting 30 home runs now again. So still hitting the cover off the ball when he needs to, still doing his thing. So, you know, you just got to bring him into the news every now and then, show it for what he's doing with the stick.
Good stuff. Obviously incredible to see him. Now let's move on to second team here. So I'm going with Nick Castellanos. Every time he hits a home run, okay, there is a major news story. Something or some gaffe happening on the broadcast. There's something going on every time he blasts a homer. So we should all just be ready and waiting for this. We actually have a list here of all of the times that Castellanos has done his homer thing and then had something crazy happen. I can't even read all of these. Look at this. Look at this list, wow. Senior. It's absolutely incredible. So, of course, on Sunday, he goes and hits his homer, and then it's announced that Joe Biden is withdrawing from the presidential race. So right on time with his home run, with that final one right there.
That is absolutely amazing. What he has become associated with home runs. And speaking of Biden withdrawing from the race, how about Xander Schauffele? Xander Schauffele was like trending number one, and then got bumped off by that news.
For all of 5 minutes, he had his glory, and then everyone was like, "Bye, we got more important things to worry about."
Great, we're gonna go to this now. I mean, oh my God, just what happens when you get. I always said that when I announced my retirement from the NFL, Joe Montana did it on the same day, and he stole my thunder.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So now the one thing we should know that about the truth is the only person I announced my retirement to was my wife. I said, no one's calling, so I guess I'm done. The league retired me. Joe actually announced his retirement to everybody.
Right.
And I didn't, but Joe even stole the thunder from my wife. After 5 minutes after I said I'm retiring, she said, "Oh, did you see Joe Montana's retiring? That's real news." I thought, okay, great. Joe bumped me out.
In your own house.
What are you going to do? But,
jeez.
Xander bumped out by the Joe Biden news. All right, my second teamer is going to go to our buddy friend of the show, Sam Hauser from the Boston Celtics. Here's an undrafted guy who has become a three-point shooting, madman. He shot over 42% from three-pointers, fourth best amongst players with 400-plus attempts. He was undrafted out of Virginia. I think he started like 13 games, played in, I think, just about in all of them, but started 13 games. But truly a developmental guy who has developed enough. Now, this isn't an earth-shattering contract, but dude went from undrafted, just try and make it in the league, to now 4 years, $45 million, to making $11 million a year. And to boot on that, he does a boot and rally on the Boston Celtics victory parade. He throws up in the cooler full of beer that his pregnant wife is then trying to get the rest of the beer out of that so he doesn't throw up on the beer. If you remember the story, he did puke on some cans of beer, which they threw to the people in the crowd. Unbeknownst to the people in the crowd, they catched beers that had puke on them. So I'm sure they were giggling a little bit. His wife got the rest of the beer, saved the rest of the beer out of that, but he puked into it, stood right back up and kept partying. So he booted and rallied to now a 4-year, $45 million deal. So good for him. You just never know, right? You expect things out of the top picks. You're not sure what you're going to get out of undrafted second rounders, let alone undrafted players, of which he was, to the mark he has made from his three-point shooting. So congrats to Sam.
Yeah, his pregnant wife earning every penny of that contract, cleaning the puke off the beer that she can't even drink.
Wow.
So you know what?
Wow.
She's the real MVP of this story.
That's martyrdom right there is what that is.
Yeah. But let's talk about our joint first team selection, because how could we go with anything but this? So, WNBA All-Star Weekend, there was a spectacle going on. So, Aubrey Plaza apparently tore her ACL during a game of knockout in the new Mercury practice facility. She's then sitting courtside, okay? As you can see here, she looks great. She's got her backwards hat on. She's got her crutch right there. She's being tended to by Sue Bird and Meg Rapinoe. So she's got her cane. She's standing there and apparently was getting, this is what the tweet says, getting sloshed. So she's hanging out. She's having the time of her life on the sideline, getting sloshed, which is all amazing. But Senior, God, you tear your ACL during a game of knockout.
With WNBA players, she's just playing around with them, playing a game and knockout, and blows out her ACL. It's just got to be horrific, especially if you're not used to any kind of rehab at all. And I don't know her history of injuries, but it can be a tough rehab. But if you see the video of it, she doesn't look like she's in a whole lot of pain as Sue Bird is helping tear off an ice bag that was on her knee. She doesn't look like she's in too much pain, and maybe there's a reason why. Maybe they were all enjoying themselves a whole lot. So good for them. Aubrey Plaza, she is hilarious, from Parks and Rec. See her in some movies. She goes down the road, the R-rated road as well in some movies, but she is funny and hilarious. So
and she can be serious. You saw her in White Lotus, right? A drama role. Yeah. Like, she can do it all.
Yeah, she can. I do like her comedic style better than the drama, but she definitely can do it both. But that is such a bummer. Oh my God.
And what if she's filming something? Like, they're gonna have to write this into the story. Boy,
I never thought of that. I didn't see that. I wonder if she is.
Then it's like she's got a crutch, she's got a cane. How are we gonna make this work with our filmings? Because they're on filming schedules for that stuff.
Yeah, they are. Or how they can hide it. Like, sometimes they'll hide pregnancies by the way you shoot or something. Maybe they could hide, as long as she doesn't have to go running or jumping or doing anything too physical, they might be able to hide it.
But okay,
Aubrey Plaza, our first team all weekend, blows her knee out, still sitting courtside with Meg Rapinoe and Sue Bird, and just doing her thing. And as the report said, not us, we're not saying it, the report said getting sloshed.
Exactly.
So, hey, Good on her if that's making her feel better and making the pain go away. Not bad at all. Coming up next, this all happened at the WNBA All-Star Weekend. Sarah Spain will join us next to give her views on just how the weekend went. It's coming up next on GoJo and Golic. Welcome back, GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Sr. here, Jesse Cofield at the studios in Boston. My son Mike is somewhere in the country. We think he's off the floor of the airport and possibly on a flight, possibly to Chicago to get back to LA. We don't know for sure, but we're hoping. We have our fingers crossed. But so no more worrying about him. Coming up next, we had a great WNBA All-Star Weekend, and Sarah Spain is ESPNW contributor and host of Good Game with Sarah Spain and iHeart Radio podcast, joining us now. And I know that podcast just started, so congrats on that. That's been very cool to see. The first off, just your overall thoughts on the WNBA All-Star Weekend.
It was incredible. Everybody I talked to said it was the best one by far. In fact, it was like that way of like complaining before realizing that it's a good thing. It was like, there's too many parties, there's too many events, there's too many sponsor activations. We can't get to everything. We can't keep track. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like Super Bowl week or, any of the other big, massive tentpole events. So pretty much across the board, everyone said it was the best one yet. And that includes the game. I mean, the number of records broken, packed, sold out arena, Pitbull at the half, like, value that was put into this and the value that you could see as a fan was definitely unprecedented for this event.
Yeah, did you feel the game lived up to the hype?
Oh, absolutely. Like, what's wild about All-Star games is like you can't decide at the beginning whether you want everyone to be pretty good or someone to go off. But once Arike started hitting everything, it was like, just feed her, let her cook. Like, we want to see she's hitting fadeaway threes, hand in her face, like, didn't matter. And I think whenever that happens, you kind of feel in the arena, everyone looking around like, oh, we're watching something big. And then, of course, she ended up scoring the All-Star record.
Yeah, Arike Ogunbowale, 34 points, 0 at halftime, 21 in the third quarter, which was a WNBA All-Star record, 34 for the game, a WNBA All-Star record as well. Her second MVP, and not to toot my own horn, but I called it on Friday when we were picking MVPs.
Yep.
I called it for Arike, so I feel
she was going to go off. She was mad about that Team USA. Second time, it was Team WNBA versus Team USA, and she didn't make the USA roster. And she's like, listen, let me show you what you're missing. Both times.
But she pulled her name out of contention, right?
Allegedly. The second time. This year, she said after the fact, after the roster was released, that she pulled her name out of contention due to politics. But I don't think you do that if you think you're going to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think if you're saying that politics are at play and you pull your own name out, I think you're getting signs or feeling like you're not getting a fair shake. And of course, the last time they did this ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, she had not been named to the roster.
And the last time this happened as well, the WNBA All-Stars beat the women's national team. So this is now 2 times in a row. Arike Ogunbowale couldn't have made a case definitely to be on this Olympic team. And do you think that's why it was so competitive, is some of these younger players were trying to show, maybe not for this team, but, you know, hey, we're the next wave and the next group that's going to be on this Olympic team?
Sure. I mean, I think, strangely enough, it's always more competitive than like the men's All-Star game. We're used to the men's All-Star game being kind of a farce, sometimes fun to watch, but like in between the 360s and between the legs, it's a lot of turnovers. I think in the women's game, first of all, there's only a couple gals that dunk in games. So you're not aiming for that. The exciting play is a really great pass or jacking up threes like Arike did. So you just have to play within the flow of the game more, which ultimately makes it more competitive, regardless of whether you're trying to or not, because you're trying to make a good play. And then I think there's something to be said for like a lot of the younger players trying to prove. I know Angel Reese said after the game, you know, I want to be on Team USA. I want to be playing next to Caitlin on the Olympic team. So I'm going to show off. And I think they kind of all understood the stakes of this year and this game in particular. There's so much more excitement. There's so many more eyeballs. So I think they're like, we got to show off. Like, we got more people than ever watching this.
Yeah, a lot of eyeballs on the game. Senior and I talked about this a little earlier in the show, but do you have any worries about the U.S. women's national team after watching that game?
I'm worried about their flight to Paris. That must suck. I mean, I know that they probably have a pretty good perspective on things, and they might have even been working on specific play calls and setting things up in a way that WNBA didn't need to worry about. They were just hooping really loose. And also, the WNBA gals knew they were getting a month off. I think Team USA was probably being very safe and very careful with their bodies and themselves to be healthy going to Paris. But I guess my biggest concern is always just, how do you wrangle the best players in the world and get them all to be part of a system and facilitating things and not just trying to get their own and do it in a pretty short amount of time. But I'm not really worried. This team is literally one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sport, one of the greatest Olympic winners ever. And I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I do too. A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, the leaders of this team, without question. And I think one of the things that goes into why it's a more competitive game, I just think they want it to be, and I think I agree with you, they understood where they were in the eyes of fans and growing this league. But also, you also mentioned it, they get a month off after this. If you're not in the Olympics, you get time off. In the NBA, they're going right into the next part of their season, maybe a reason they don't play it as hard. Who knows? As far as the rookies, Caitlin Clark, 0 from three-point land, I think 0 for 7, just 4 points, but dishing out 10 assists, a rookie record in the All-Star game. And Angel Reese, Sarah, as a former defensive player, I take something more out of defense and just her tenacity in the boards, setting a record for rookies with rebounds in a game in the All-Star game, or
and
I think for rebounds, and another double-double. So talk about their two performances in this game.
Well, first with Angel, what's really fun is how knowledgeable the fans are. And being a Chicago gal reminds me of Dennis Rodman, where like you rarely see fans erupt and like go crazy for under the bucket hustle. And yet every time you see Angel down there scrapping for boards, the fans like kind of lose their minds because they know she's getting another board. She's getting closer to a double-double. Like it's a rare thing, I think, in basketball. But once you've established yourself the way she has, she's like the Rodman of the WNBA, and people love to see it. I think with Caitlin, pretty interesting to see how her game beyond the perimeter has not translated that well in the W. And I think it's twofold. One, I do think teams are guarding her at the opposing side of the court's free throw line all the way down. And she is very wisely and smartly seeing how her double teams are leading to wide open buckets for her teammates, which is why she keeps setting records for assists, because she's taking what they're giving her. And it's really hard, even if you can shoot from the logo, to get one off if people are always in your face. And I do think she's probably freaking exhausted. I mean, we keep talking about it, but I think we underestimate how much basketball she's played, and also just the weight of carrying the expectations, the eyeballs, the criticism, the questions, everything. And I think that's affecting her shooting more than her ability to pass it and run the point. So I wanted to come back though, and I know she was trying to give the fans something. There's a clip of her talking to someone off court. It was probably Lobo and Ryan, I'm not sure. And she was like, "Yeah, I'll jack one up for you before the time here." And I think she was trying to give the fans something and just couldn't hit.
Oh man! And did you see Aubrey Plaza on the sideline really quick before we go out here with the torn ACL? Like, it's so cool to see celebrities out here supporting the game and
oh my God,
physically putting their body on the line.
There were so many celebrities, but yeah, I mean, a legendary move to tear your ACL as a spectator. That's like really giving your all to the event. No, tons of celebrities, so much enthusiasm. And, the players are really stepping into it. I'm sure there are some that would rather be in the olden days when you just showed up and hooped. But the ones that are like getting off the fits, going to the parties, hanging out, Flage's rapping. She's getting ready for her, professional career, both as a rapper and player. And it was awesome.
Yeah, Jason Sudeikis seems to be the big time WNBA celebrity right now. I know you and him are tight from the Ted Lasso
very
days.
tight.
But,
we've met once, but yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
My
Don't
best
let
friend.
the truth get in the way of a good story, Sarah. You guys are tight. That's all I need to know. And he's one of the big stars following the game. Sarah, we appreciate your time. Best of luck on the podcast. It just got going. I know it's going to be great. Appreciate the time.
Everybody subscribe. Good Game with Sarah Spain.
Good Game with Sarah Spain. Like that title, too. It's easy to say. Much easier than when Calvin Johnson trying to get Pride of the Lions, the Ring of Honor type situation going on. All right, this, that, and the third. Coming up, we got people throwing hay. Welcome back, GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Sr. here. Jesse Caulfield as well. My son, Mike, not. He is in airline hell today and yesterday. As always, we appreciate you download, subscribe, rate, and review whenever, wherever you listen. Leave us a 5-star rating, if you would. Watch us live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on DraftKings Network. Streaming free on Samsung TV Plus, Roku channel, Xumo Play, and DraftKingsNetwork.com, or you can catch us after the show wherever you get your podcast. You can always watch full episodes on DraftKings YouTube as well. And speaking of flights, Mike, again, my son not with us because he was, as I said, in flight hell, trying to go from LA to Cincinnati, got caught in Minneapolis, had to sleep there last night, looking for a flight to Chicago this morning. I don't know if he got on one or not, just to get back to LA. He's missing the golf tournament in Cincinnati where we were supposed to end up. It turns out as today, total cancellations within, into, or out of the U.S. early Monday totaled 758 cancellations today. And Delta has 626 of those cancellations, nearly 83% of canceled flight. A pause in Delta's operation resulted in more than 3,500 Delta and Delta Connection scrubbed flights. Delta, though, has been offering waivers to affected customers. I'm sure that makes their day. That here's your waiver, now go sleep on the floor or something. So again, travel hell. If you travel long enough, or maybe if you didn't have to travel long enough, you've gone through some kind of hellscape on your travel day. I went through it actually earlier this week. It wasn't awful, but enough where I had to miss the show on Tuesday. Mike had to miss it today for his flying. So we hope anybody who's out there and having some issues, hopefully they get handled quickly and you get to be on your way. Until then, Jesse, let's give them this, that, and the third and start with a little this.
Yeah, the way we always end our show. So let's start with this. Like you said, what is a better OL feat of strength here? So we have LSU's Will Campbell doing a squat here. Guess how much this man was squatting? 616 pounds. My God. And you can see the crowd goes wild in the background. Senior, obviously that's an insane feat. The look at his face when he's about to go down, he's got the belt on. It's going to haunt my nightmares. And then we have Cade Pieper doing the hay bale toss in Solon, which entails throwing hay bales over incrementally taller heights. And he topped out at 12 feet. Nothing more Iowa than throwing bales of hay. So both impressive feats. Which one are you going to go with?
Well, I mean, listen, you put over 600 pounds on your back and squat it. I'm giving you the crown there of these two. Now, the throwing the bale of hay is a different kind of thing. Kind of like World's Strongest Man. I love the World's Strongest Man events. They're different. They're not just your normal weightlifting events. They're different type of events for feats of strength. So throwing a bale of hay, while certainly difficult, and my shoulder would come apart if I tried that, so very, very impressive. It wins on the, not normal way of doing a strength thing, but just on strength alone, I would go with Will Campbell squatting 615 pounds. And I don't, it seems like that should be going by the wayside, single reps like that. It's almost, you're getting to be, outside of, the lifting where you're going for records, the pro lifters and stuff. But for athletes to do that, I don't know what's good about it anymore. I mean, that's what we used to do. Well, yeah, it can be. We went to one max bench. We went to one max squat. And then it kind of went to pick a weight and do it for reps, and we'll figure out a max and stop doing squats. Like my brother Bob, he did a 1-rep max when he was with the Cleveland Browns, over 800 pounds squatting. I mean, his legs were so strong, and he wanted to go up, and luckily they stopped him. But I just pray there's no injury when you see these huge feats or a lot of weight, especially by football players. It's so they don't hurt themselves. But yeah. Will didn't. Very, very impressive. So both impressive. But if you make me go with one, I'm going with the guy who's got 616 pounds strapped on his back.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, we used to fake max out so that we didn't have to go up in weight. And clearly he's not fake maxing out at all. But let's get into that. The Arena Bowl Championship was played at the American Dream Center at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. It was in a mall, okay, Senior? So the Albany Firebirds took the Mall Field against the Billings Outlaws on Friday night. Billings Outlaws ended up winning 46-41. So AFL returned, you remember in 2024, they had that 5-year hiatus. And now I'm not sure why they decided to hold this in a mall, but it looks pretty cool just from a visual perspective, right, Senior?
Yeah, I mean, they did it for kind of a show, kind of like, look at this, a spectacle, because this league has struggled. Listen, I covered 2 iterations of this league and called games. One back in the 90s when Kurt Warner was playing with the Iowa Barnstormers. Me and Mike Adamley called the games, and then later on, me and Greeny called games in another iteration of arena football. But it had lasted for a while. It had been doing well. It had been very fruitful. But it has struggled now. The season, you mentioned the 5 years off since 19. This season started with 16 teams. 8 teams folded before the end of the season. Multiple teams folded up shop just 1 or 2 games into the season. The Philadelphia Soul fielded a team of players from another league, missed payments to players. The commissioner, Lee Hutton, was removed after week 3, replaced by one of my former coaches. Jeff Fisher was the D coordinator in Philly for a while when I was there. A proposed TV deal with the NFL Network fell through, so they have gone through it. This was a league that had gone away, weren't sure if it was going to come back. It kind of comes back, but as a real struggle for a year. But they do have the championship game, which about a week before weren't even sure they were going to play it. But they did it as kind of a spectacle to play it at a mall, to set up shop there because it's not a normal size field. I loved arena football. I had loved what they had done over the years, but it is unfortunately just a shell of itself right now.
But Senior, which food court would you stop at? Which restaurant would you stop at before you went and took in the game? Because you got some options. You're in a mall.
Probably Annie Ann, something like that.
Yep.
I would, or if there's, gourmet popcorn type cheese, I'm a big cheese popcorn guy, but probably a pastry type situation. Yeah.
Well, speaking of popcorn and its original form, let's talk corn. Let's talk a cornfield.
Well done.
Great way to transition into the legend of Dan Campbell here. It's only growing. So there's a cornfield in Michigan, and his face has been carved into this corn maze. It's got the word grit there on his hat. He's ready to go. And then he's got the full lion's mane around his head. And it's in this corn maze near Williamston, which is in Michigan. And people don't seem to know a lot about how this came to be. So I'm just going to throw it out there. It was aliens. The aliens are going to make Dan Campbell the new king of the earth. And it seems, he seems like a great choice at this point.
Boy, he sure does. It looks so cool from above. His face with the hat on, as you mentioned, that says grit. It's a corn maze, as they say, somewhere in mid-Michigan.
Yeah.
But it is really somewhat amazing, but not shocking that Dan Campbell, and if you want to say the aliens even are bowing to Dan Campbell, I would say that's very cool. If anybody's going to get a corn maze, why not let it be Dan Campbell? I like the mane around his head, like a lion's mane around his head. He's already got a tough-looking face as it is, so you put a lion's mane around it, it just toughens it up even more. That's very cool.
That's just art, and maybe this shirt, you need to get this corn maze emblazoned on a shirt to give to your daughter.
Yeah.
She's a big Dan Campbell stan.
Yeah. My daughter, Sydney, her husband was a tight end as well. So she has got a thing for tight ends. He is a big fan, was planned on wearing a Dan Campbell Detroit Lions shirt during giving birth, but that never happened. I wonder how long it took for that corn maze to be done.
I wonder how many tattoo parlors in Michigan have been working on that one for people.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good point to see how many are going to get that one. I think the first Sunday night game I am at Detroit, so I'm going to see if maybe even Dan got one as well. That would be very, very cool. All right. Appreciate everybody joining the show and taking part of it. Tomorrow we will see if my son is back or not.